My friend, the last conversation we had, people really enjoyed. It's done very well on the show. You're one of the more talked about guests I've had on the show, and we right away said, oh, we have to do this again. So we brought you back to this time. We're going to talk about some interesting stuff, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it. The concepts of the afterlife and reincarnation is a topic that fascinates most every human being on the planet. At one point or another is going to go, what's on the other side? Is there anything that happens with it when we die? Can you, from a mystic's point of view, from your point of view, can you talk about the concept of reincarnation and how it fits into a spiritual journey?
Oh, is that it?
Well, that's the beginning, sir.
Okay. Okay, to get your head around that kind of truth, you have to understand and remember that the universe is one enormous living thing, and it goes on forever. Mind, I'm talking about the life, the entity that we call life, or being alive universally. So there's only one life and all things are in it. That life can be broken down very basically to matter and an animating force. That animating force can build anything out of that matter. Matter is like a extremely advanced Lego block kit. You can make anything from whales to people. So matter can only hold itself together for a certain amount of time, whether it's a worm or a person or a tree. Different amounts of time for different forms. Now in life, life is experiencing itself and living through matter. Life is immortal, it's there forever. Matter has to keep being rebuilt and reconstituted. That's basically your reincarnation. What happens there is this, and I need to say here that anything I speak about comes from experience and practice. I will never ever speak of anything that someone's told me. I will never speak of anything that I've read. Consequently, I haven't read a book for 30 years, 20, 30 years, because it's hearsay. You don't know who wrote the books, you don't know who you're talking to. It's all hearsay until you've actually done it for yourself and experienced it for yourself. And my experience is when you practice the death practices, which is to stop your heart and die, etc. I need to say something else first. When most people are on their deathbed and they don't have much of a clue of what's going on, they faint. They faint out of fear because they don't know what's coming up. They are terrified, most people, unfortunately, but that's the case. So they faint and they miss the whole process of dying. When you learn to sit in the correct place in your mind and have all of the horrors that a mind, or a brain I should say, have all of the horrors that a brain can produce whizzing around you inside here. When you go in and sit in still meditation and your thoughts are chattering away about negative things and there's other movements coming and going and there's the aching body. The point to meditation is to focus and be so still that your mind isn't darting from one thing to the other. That's the movement you have to still in meditation. Don't still the things that are moving, you still that part of you that is constantly moving from one to the other. And you hold that. And when you can hold that dead still for a minute or so, enlightenment will hit you like a truck. Now, these thoughts that are whizzing around you have all of your fears and all of your likes and dislikes and all of your paranoias and everything that makes a person's life terrible. And I'm not saying all life is terrible, but this is the context that we're speaking about. You've learned to be absolutely dead still, regardless of what the brain or life can throw at you. So then, once you've learned to do that, hopefully, when it comes time to die, you'll be as still can be, and you'll watch the process of dying, and you'll see your body close down, you'll see your brain close down. We did this twice a week. I'm describing experiences that we have had here. So you watch the whole thing die, and break down, but you will not lose your consciousness or focus. You will still be there. And then you will see the obligatory light at the end of the tunnel, and you'll start heading towards that. This whole process to you will seem like about 15 minutes, but in actuality, about 40 weeks have gone by, which is a pregnancy term. So you start heading towards that light, and when you come out of that light, into it I should say, you're not going to see St. Peter or God. You're going to see your new mother and the doctor and the nurse. That's what you're going to see, because you're about to be reborn. And that's what reincarnation is. Once you have done that once, you will see and understand through experience that the only thing that comes and goes is the body, and you, the mind, the spirit, doesn't go anywhere. It's always there, always will be. So now the question is there such a thing as reincarnation?
Interesting way of looking at it.
Is there such a thing as you at that point?
It's interesting because what you just said there at the end, that we cannot process this reality well many times using the ego, using all of these thoughts and opinions and dogmas and everything that's been kind of piled into us over the years. But it seems to me that people like yourself, other spiritual masters that I've spoken to, they process life from the internal source power that is within the heart, let's say, for an analogy, not as much in the brain. And they can process this reality at a much higher level. Many great masters that I've studied has said, we don't read books. We don't look at other people's opinions and thoughts. We look internally for those ideas. Now, there are books that can start you on that journey. There's things that can ignite these ideas and these thoughts. But at the end of the day, it's a remembering of these things. This is not new information. This is remembering information.
Yeah, they're not actually processing it. That at that point, you are the life that the ego is trying to process. The ego tries to process, the spirit just is it. It's the life that you're trying to process. You see? Here's the demonstration right there. You can't approach it with thinking. It's not possible. The thought process is purely there for survival. And let me back up, okay? So, matter, including the brain, has its own ways of being, its own ways of sustaining, its own ways of continuing itself and procreating itself. It also has the ability to create its own miracles. The brain can create miracles such as placebo effect. So it can do lots of things miraculously with matter, but it can't do anything about spirit. Spirit has its own miracles from its dimension. It can heal from a distance. It can heal other people. It has remote viewing abilities, you see. And therefore, matter trying to understand spirit is like comparing apples and oranges. It can't be done. They're different things from different places, from different trees. But you can grow apples and oranges in the same paddock, but that's it. That's as close as they get. What I mean by that is, on planets and other places, matter and spirit can cohabit, and if the matter happens to have a brain allocated to it, you have an interface where spirit can function through matter. That's what the brain's for. It's an interface between two dimensions. I've completely forgotten your question.
No, we've gone down the road. Yeah, we've gone down the road a bit. But it's really interesting, as you were saying that, it's kind of like there's a car, which is matter, and then it sits there doing nothing, worthless, useless, doesn't do a thing until someone sits in it turns it
I
on,
wished I'd have said it like that.
and starts to drive the car.
Mm.
Because without that animating force, it's just a pile of matter.
Yes.
Or a pile of bolts and chips and other things like that in the car analogy. But so that is the animated matter, which is the soul. As a guest of mine said once, without the soul, the body starts to stink pretty quickly.
Very quickly.
Now, okay, so going back to when you come into this world, when you come in, you say we are an empty vessel. So how does karma play in to the programming of that soul coming into a new incarnation?
Oh gosh, karma works on many, many levels. I'll give you a very interesting, for instance, one level of karma only. Many people see karma as reward or punishment, and that isn't true. Life is one living entity, and it doesn't punish itself. It's not that stupid. So it's not about punishment or reward. It's about remembering enough things to consistently develop and progress and become more erudite in our lives or in life itself. That's what it's about. If, for instance, and I think I've said this before, if you spend your entire life wanting nothing but sex and have children after children after children, that's all you want to do, that's what you live for, that's what you've dedicated your life to, you will probably come back as a rabbit. That's not a punishment. That's you.
Right.
You shaped your soul, so to speak, to fit into a rabbit by your loves and needs and wants.
So when you're coming back in, though, as a human soul, how does those, well, let me ask you this, how do past lives affect that new soul coming in? These are easy questions, GM.
They're beautiful questions. Can I tell you a story? Do you mind?
Please, I love your stories.
No, thank you. You wouldn't like my bedtime stories. I had a student many years ago, still in this lifetime, many years ago, and he was a bodybuilder in Australia. Now he, in bodybuilding, it's about symmetry, it's not about size, it's about symmetry. And this poor guy, he was winning local bodybuilding competitions left, right and center. He looked good, but one shoulder was always smaller than the other. He went to doctors, he had steroid injections in the shoulder, he did everything, and it just would not come up to scratch. So he came to me and I suggested, let's have a look at a past life regression. So we go into a past life regression, we go into this past life regression, and he comes out on a battlefield in Scotland somewhere. This is a guy in Australia. So he's in Scotland, someone comes running up to him on horseback, jumps off the horse, cuts him down through here, his shoulder peels away. He's laid up against a tree in absolute horror. He's just been cut in half, he's terrified, he doesn't know what's going to happen next in life. So you pop up, you're the one that's gone back in time into this past life. So the you leaning against the tree is seeing this shimmering thing in front of it now. What's it going to think? Ghost? Angel? It has no idea. It's feeling better though, because it's seeing something paranormal. So what you need to do at that point, and this is what I had the guy do, you just lean over and you say, you have no need to worry about anything. I'm here to let you know that you are divinely loved and life goes on. And this is purely a small hurdle and a life that probably shouldn't have been, but that is irrelevant. Life will go on. You are going to be reborn, and there is so much more to life that you are about to experience. So buck up. Don't worry about it, go to sleep. And then you drift back and you come back and you take away the post-traumatic stress that stays with your epigenetics. You remove it. So he comes back now, back into this world. 6 months later, he won Mr. Universe, and his shoulder grew back. We just broke his trauma from a memory that he didn't know he had. That's genetic memory, epigenetics. So that is how past life can affect this one.
When you say epigenetics, you know, I've had Bruce Lipton on the show who spoken a lot about epigenetics. I've heard this from other guests before about we bring in through our DNA, which is the code, the programming of our matter, traumas from not only our past lives, but generational past lives. So my grandfather, my great grandfather, and so on and so on. That stuff keeps carrying on until someone breaks that cycle of sorts. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely. And that's just on this piddly little tiny planet, 1 pixel in a drive-in movie screen sized universe. This planet is 1 pixel. There is at least 11 more dimensions supporting this universe, and there are beings that live there as well. Some of them just look like transparent blankets moving around.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you this. From your point of view, what happens after we pass? Like, I always love asking this question from people, from past life regressionists, also from near-death experiencers. When the soul is on the other side, is it hanging out at a bar? Is it watching movies? Like, in the time period between lives, what is going on? Do you have an answer to that?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. I'm joking. I do this quite often. As you know, one of my main things was death practices. Used to die twice a week, stop the heart, leave the body, etc., etc. So from experience, there's several things that can happen, and you do have a choice. You can leave your body and remain here, especially if you can't let go. But you can do it by choice, and you can remain here. You can do it while you're alive. You can leave your body and you can float over to your friend's house and have a look, come back, phone up your friend and say, I've just been to your place. Do you have half a cup of coffee and a red rubber band sitting on your bedside table? And he or she will go, yeah, you've been looking through the window. But what that's doing is telling you that you were actually there. So that's one thing that can happen. So another thing you can do is you can remain within the death process and do absolutely nothing and let the death process work in a natural way without your interference, in which case you will see the light and you will do the whole 40-week thing and end up coming out in another hospital somewhere. And the third option, actually there's 4 now that I think about it. I'll go straight to the 4th first. The 4th option is you can actually possess another body. I know mystics who on a regular basis visit coma wards or coma hospitals where people are absolutely brain dead, but there's nothing wrong with them for whatever reason. And they keep an eye on these bodies. And when it's time for this body to die, the one that the mystic is in, he will go into that spare car over there that no one's using. And suddenly in the hospital, the body wakes up, comes out of coma. You have access to all of its thoughts, but you also have your own knowing. So that's another one. That's kind of akin to possession, but not.
Is that like a walk-in soul? I've heard of that term, the walk-in soul.
Yeah, you can do. Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of names for it, but that's a possibility and anyone can do it. But the third option is you can leave your body and go into the astral realm and live there. Your job there would be input into living people's creativity. The astral realm is where we make our blueprints. When you sit down, if you want to build a building, you're going to build it here first, and then from there you'll put it on paper, and then from the paper you'll put it on the road. When you're building it up in here, that's the astral. That's where you're building it. That's the blueprint. So if you decide to hover in that astral realm as an entity, a creative entity, you have the ability to influence people's creativity. So they're the things you can do. They're the options that you will have.
Very, very interesting.
And you can go out there and talk to these things if you wanted to. Could I give you a quick idea of how I do it with people, if you don't mind? It's very quick. Take me 2 minutes. Yeah.
Sure.
So what happens is we go into a past life. We pretty much kill the body down to about 2-3 heartbeats a minute. Lots of internal stuff happens when you do that. If you relax the body enough, it releases its grip on the spirit as well to a certain extent. I'll have you out of your body in about 13 to 15 minutes. Anyone in the room with us falls into the same vortex. They're seeing what this person's seeing because they're bringing data from one dimension into another. So anyway, you'll go into a past life. We'll go through a certain process to make sure that you're not just using your imagination. Basically, you turn your brain off. You're dead, brain dead. So now we know it's not imagination. You can put an electroencephalograph on there and make sure there's no brain activity as well. So you go into your past life. We look for some smoke coming out of the forest or a mountaintop or somewhere. We're looking for a road, or we're looking for a path, something that would indicate other life. Once you've done that, let us say hypothetically we find a village. You go to the village, you find someone who looks like they are amicable enough, and you would lie to them, unfortunately, and you would say something like, "Excuse me, I've just been on my horse and I've fallen off my horse and bashed my head on a tree, and for some reason I forgot my name and I'm not sure which village I've come from. Do you know me?" And if you're lucky, they'll go, "Oh yeah, your name is John Doe and you live over there with your grandmother. You've been there for 14 years now. And you know me, I'm the mayor of the village." He'll tell you the name of the village. They'll tell you the date. You need to ask them what date this is so you know how far back you've gone. And then you would go to your cottage and you would take some things out of your cottage and put it under a stone somewhere. And then when you come back to this generation, this time, you would Google Earth the village that you went to and see if it's there. You would look up the people, you would look up the houses, you would look up the name that you were given, you would go back there and find it and look under the rock that you placed something under, and the thing will be there. And that's how you prove, that's where the evidence is that you've actually done it.
It's really
so that's just one thing you can do. And I forgot what your question was, but it was a great answer.
It's a great answer to the question. You said something really interesting, and I want to dig into it a little bit. You said that when you relax the body down to 2 or 3 heartbeats, it releases the grip on the spirit. That statement's very interesting to me because 2 things. One, when you meditate, you relax the body, you drop the heartbeat, and then you can loosen the spirit to go and connect to different areas. You can go astral projection, you can go out of body, but you could also have mystical experiences because the body it's literally releasing it. And then secondly, in the dream state, when we go to sleep at night, we are releasing the spirit because the body has no grip over it. Hence, we are living in the dream world or the astral plane when we are dreams. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. And of course, hypnosis.
That's another one, right? It's
hypnosis, you're turning the ego off under hypnosis, and it lets you go.
So
I love it.
I say that because it's just, again, I'm just in my own personal journey trying to figure out again and again how things work in so many ways.
Do you know how hypnosis works?
Please explain it to the audience.
Hypnosis is turning off the impetus behind your thoughts. or some people would call it the analytical factor. Apollo Robbins would call it Frank. You know Apollo Robbins?
I do not.
He's the best pickpocket in the world.
Okay.
Only because he's brilliant at misdirection.
Mm-hmm.
And what he points out is, very correctly, you got this little guy here called Frank. If I ask you what color your car is, and when I ask you that question, he's going to go back to a filing cabinet and go through there until he finds the color of your car, and then he'll pull that out and come up and go, oh, it's blue. That happens in a millionth of a second, but it's always happening. That's Frank. So if I ask you a question, when Frank goes back to look for that, there's a doorway there that's not being filtered, and I can get into your head at that moment while he's not sitting there. Hypnosis knocks him out, and this is how it works. Thousands of years ago, if you and I were walking towards each other on a road, we would do this. I'm showing you I don't have a weapon. I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to rob you. We're good friends. A couple of thousand years later, that ended up as a wave and a handshake. It is so ingrained in you now that if you walk down the street towards a total stranger and go, hi, my name's Alex, he will probably shake your hand, just out of epigenetics. Mm-hmm. He will do that, okay? Now, that is so ingrained to the point where you don't think about it. It becomes an automatic move, which means Frank's having a yawn at that moment. You see, because it's an automatic thing. You don't need Frank. So you go to shake the guy's hand. He shakes your hand. You don't do this anymore, which is what he's expecting. You don't shake the hand. You turn his hand around, put it in his face, which is something completely left field of what he was expecting. Now he's in a trance. He's like, oh, what happened? Frank jumps up, what's going on? It's a mess in there for about 3 seconds. Frank's running around looking for a cue because you've just turned his off. What's your first cue? Sleep. Okay, I'll do that. Boom, and he's gone, he's under. It's called flash induction or a snap induction. If you're bending over, tying up a shoelace, something you've done for 35 years, you're tying your shoelace, you're not thinking about it, you're in a neutral zone. If I bend down in front of you and look you in the eye and put my hand on your shoelace so you can't tie it up, I'll just stop you. You'll go like that for a second because you don't know what's happening, and I'll go sleep, and you'll just go bump, and you're gone. That's how hypnosis works. It's that easy. You just got to get Frank out of there. And you just need to know.
That's awesome. That's an amazing demonstration, my friend. I appreciate that. Now, another thing that we talk about in regards to the afterlife and souls and reincarnation is soulmates. Do we have a group or a soul family? Do we have groups of souls that we are continuously incarnating with in different ways to help each other grow?
No, not really. Something similar, but no, that's not really the way to look at it.
How would you look at it?
I'll give you an analogy. If you were to take a liter of water, ocean water, and you turn that liter of ocean water into a dozen ice cubes in an ice cube tray, you've taken this one entity of water and split it up and solidified 12 different entities out of it. So now you've got 12 ice cubes, but they're all made of exactly the same entity, the same water. If you throw all of them back into the ocean and they melt back into the ocean, in some areas, because of other laws like attracts like and all of that, the water that used to be this ice cube may feather through some of the water that was in that ice cube. And you'll notice, and so they've blended, they've come in contact with each other at some point in time as water and as ice cubes, and people are like those ice cubes. If you are if a bunch of people have all came from the same sector of universal mind, so there's a connection there, and then when these people die and get reborn into another car, another form, if you were one of those people and you just happen to brush past or walk past a total stranger that just happens to be from that same sector of mind that you all came from, you would feel a connection. You would immediately look at each other. You would immediately feel that connection. You would probably go and have a coffee with each other. If it's male and male and male even, or female and female, you'll probably think you're falling in love with each other because you've got such a deep connection that can't be described in words. And you would go, we must be soulmates. You are, but you're not different souls off on different paths. You're drops of milk that have come from the same carton.
Oh, that's really beautiful. That's a really beautiful way of putting it, because it's...
Oh, thank you. It gave me a headache.
So let me ask you then, from your point of view, what is the ultimate purpose of all of this? The goal of this reincarnation and the spiritual evolution and attaining
that's
enlightenment?
easy.
What is that?
That's easy, man. You know this one. Do you want me to go all the way back to before there was matter? Because I think we've done that one.
Yeah, we did that one. Yeah, we spoke about the very beginning of the universe in the last conversation.
Well, that's your answer. Life is trying to understand itself. Life has to just go on and go on and go on until it's reached the end of its potential before it can fully know itself.
And it's full, and that's endless.
And that's endless. And there's your need for reincarnation. There's your need for constantly recycling matter. There's your need for retaining information. Well, it's all life wanting to know what it is, and it's in all of us. We're all curious, we're all confused, we all want to know where we came from. How can 8 billion people have the same question if we're not painted with the same brush?
Oh, that's another beautiful. That's, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world.
Well, truth generally does.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. And that's another thing about truth. Because when you hear it, it's like a beautiful piece of music. It's a beautiful piece of music that kind of just rings in you. And you go, oh, that makes exactly. Thank you for the special effects, sir. When you hear truth, you go, oh, that makes sense. And it's just an automatic, like, okay, that just rings true to me, no pun intended. Things. Now, going back to the soul, can the soul live multiple lifetimes at the same time?
Yes.
Please elaborate.
Oh, there is a wonderful Siddhartha story, actually. It wasn't about Siddhartha, it was about one of the monks that revolved around Siddhartha. This monk, he was dying, he was ill. It was time for him to depart, time for him to leach out of the vehicle that he'd been using because it was sick, let's put it that way. So he went into deep meditation. He sat there into the meditation where he could remain conscious through the death process and become a Rinpoche. A Rinpoche is merely someone who has been reincarnated and found their way back and pick up where they left off. That's a Rinpoche, basically. I went way off track then. Give me the question again real quick.
Can a soul have multiple lifetimes?
Thank you. So he died. They can't find him at all. Eventually, one of the people who have been trained specifically to look for reincarnating masters and monks had a dream, and he dreamt that this master, his master who had just died, was in America. Anyway, long story short, they all went out and found the reincarnation of this dead monk master, but it came in 3 different children. His humor went into one child because he had a fantastic sense of humor. His compassion went into another child, and his creativity went into another child. And all of these children came together from completely different parts of the planet, and they knew each other. And they tested them as they do in Tibet. I'm pretty sure you understand how they do that with the bowl and the teeth and all the rest of it. And they all passed the test. One kid picked up the bowl and said, "Oh, this is my bowl, and I am pretty sure my teeth are in that cabinet over there." And they were wooden false teeth. And another one said, "Oh, that's my hat and my cape." And they were. So they all knew. The Tibetans aren't stupid. They know how to test a person. And of course, they've got their own oracles, which is like, you like your mind to be blown, you should sit in the same room as the Dalai Lama's oracle. That'll blow you out. That's amazing.
What is the Dalai Lama's oracle? I've never heard of that.
Oh!
I know what an oracle is, and I know who the Dalai Lama is. I've never heard of both in the same. I don't even know this concept. Can you explain it, please?
There are people in Tibet, and it's a handed down thing, master to student, usually father to son, in the same vein. And these people have dedicated, since birth, dedicated their entire life to being a vessel for spirits to come through and help and speak with the Dalai Lama. That's what they do. That's all they do. That's what they're designed for, and that's what they train for. So when the Dalai Lama has to have some information, spiritual information that the ego simply can't approach, he will go to the room, he will call onto his oracle, they will bring the oracle in and put all of this regalia on, all of this enormous ancient clothing that they wear and armor, and then this oracle will start to go into his trance state, and then spirits start to speak through him. And then they have another bunch of people, and their only job is to be able to translate these really high squeaks and grunts that comes out of this oracle. And in those translations, they give that to the Dalai Lama, and he gets his answer, and then he can go and use it in the world. So that's a Dalai Lama's oracle.
But is that more? Is the oracle like a medium or a channel?
More like a walkie-talkie.
A medium or a channel, both of those are very similar. Yeah. They're conduits, if you will, to the other side.
Yes. Look, guys, if you're searching for truth and reality, you've got to approach it with a scientific attitude. And I've said this a million times. Everything that makes up being alive is in your skin bag right now, or you would be dead. Go in there and have a look. All the answers are inside you. It takes me less than 2 minutes to take you there, if you want to, Alex.
I would love to. I was like, is he inviting me to do this? I would love to. If you could show it to us, I would. Oh my God, that would be amazing, GM.
Do you want to do it towards the end, or do you want to do it like nowish?
Let's do it nowish. Why not?
All right. The reason I'm doing this is clarity with people. And as you know, I have people coming to me saying things like, I've been meditating for 10 years, GM, and I'm just not getting anywhere with it. I'm as depressed as I was 10 years ago. Why doesn't this work? And I say, how are you meditating? And they tell me, and I say, I'm sorry, you've been visualizing for 10 years, not meditating.
Right.
And that is what most people teach, and it's disgusting. Once again, they don't know what they're doing. So, if you're quite content in life, but occasionally a thought process comes up that makes you feel a little bit sad and you don't know why that is, you will contemplate. That's what contemplation is for, seeing where the glitch is in your program. That will tell you that. Your brain thinks in picture form. If you want to talk to your brain, if you want your brain to create a miracle, all you have to do is talk to it in its own language, which is pictures, and it will produce anything you want it to produce, including healing cancer, if that's what's necessary. But you got to learn its language. I've said this to you before. If I say to you, what color is your house? You don't see the words, my house is white. You see a white house. Your brain is going, it's this color. You see, it talks. So you have to talk back to it in pictures. It doesn't know what words mean. Why? Because it's a dead thing. We've just discussed that. So, contemplation is to fix the program. Visualization is to tell your brain what you want it to do. Meditation is to take you into the enlightened mind, the spirit, to take you out of ego. That's what that's for, and that's all it's for. Each one practice has a different objective and outcome. People are trying to reach enlightenment through visualization. People are trying, etc., etc., using the wrong tool for the wrong thing. In saying that, here we go.
Okay.
This is going to take 3 minutes, maybe 5. Let's go 5. You ready?
Okay.
Be very comfortable, please. Take a nice, easy, deep breath. And as you let your breath out, make sure your eyes are closed. Nice and easy. You take one more breath, and as you let this next breath out, let every muscle and every organ in your body just drop and hang. This is called an inner smile. When you let everything inside you relax, your upper diaphragm in your torso and your lower diaphragm starts to sink in the middle, and it looks like a smile, and that's called the inner smile. It's a very, very healthy thing to do. Now that you're in there and you're relaxed, the first thing you're going to notice is the blackness, and in that blackness there's going to be movement, like watching a bowl of black ink. But that's okay. You've gone in there to be still in yourself, not to still the things that you can see. So stilling the movement in the blackness is an absolute ridiculous movement. So don't do that. Somewhere back there in the background, in that darkness, Alex is chattering away somewhere. There's chatter, internal chatter, there's voices, there's thinking. Don't worry about that. That's not you either, obviously. You are something else in there watching that. Also, there may be colors coming and going from the blackness. There might be shapes coming and going in the blackness. The shapes may be changing colors. The colors may be changing colors right in front of you. Don't try and do anything with that either. That's not you. Why the hell would you try and stop that? So what have we got? You are sitting there in this wonderful, dark, beautiful space in the middle of your brain somewhere, and all around you there's movement, there's chattering, there's shapes, there's voices, there's colors, there's aches and pains of the body, all sorts of things. And as we've said, to try and stop those is an absolute irrelevant practice. What you will notice though is your focus tends to move from the blackness to the movement, from the movement to the shapes, from the shapes to the thinking, from the thinking to the voices. That is what you have to still. That is you. Stilling what you're aware of is irrelevant and inconsequent. So what have we got now? Like being the eye in a storm. You have this raging storm whizzing around you, and yet in that eye there is absolute beautiful stillness, clear blue sky, sun beaming in, absolute stillness, no movement of wind or anything. And yet going on around you is enormous amounts of destruction, but you in the middle are untouched. Nothing can get through there to you, but unfortunately you can't get through it. And that's the situation, but that's not a problem. So you're sitting in there, absolutely wonderfully still. You've got thoughts chattering away in the background, and in those chattering thoughts somewhere in the background are all your fears and problems and beliefs and all the stupidity that have made all the things in your life that were difficult. But they're not you. Do nothing about it. Your job is to sit there and stop your focus from moving from one thing to the other. That is the stillness you're after. And when you can do that, you can then go about watching Alex go through his day, working in the world, doing what Alex normally does, but you yourself will consistently, constantly be in that wonderful, beautiful stillness, untouched by the stupidity of the thoughts that Alex has at certain times. But that's irrelevant too. You sit there in that wonderful stillness, and sitting there you can now see and realize that all of your problems are in that thinking back there somewhere. Now, if you can sit there absolutely still for 1 minute, enlightenment will hit you like a truck. And this is why I said before, if you can just count backwards and hold your focus for 30 seconds, and then if you can extend that to 1 minute, that's all you have to do. Train your focus to be in the moment for 1 minute, and you will start to realize enlightenment. And that's what the practices are for. So I'm going to leave you for 20 seconds, and then I'll call you back out of it and we'll go back into the interview. But watch, notice, but don't move. Okay, Alex, take a deep breath, buddy, and slowly come back to your room. Wunderbar. If you're not doing that, you're not meditating.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. It was beautiful. It's I'm used to doing that with my meditation. I just kind of go into a place where I stop, and then I go, and I'm gone somewhere, and then I come back. And sometimes there's 30 minutes that go by, and I'm gone. And that's what
you have to stop that as well, my friend, eventually.
Uh-huh.
I was talking to a lady the other day. She's been meditating for 30 years and she's still having problems. She's not getting the ultimate what she wanted, and she explained what she was doing. She was doing exactly what I just did with you, but then she starts to feel this beautiful sensation of melting and becoming one with the all.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what's just happened? She shifted her focus onto that. Doesn't matter how beautiful it is, it can still be a trap. There's nothing wrong with any of this if you're not trying to get to the ultimate point of enlightenment at all. It's just what happens, and you need to understand that. But you cannot move. You've got to be still, regardless of what's coming at you. Hold that stillness for 1 minute. If you're coming and going, you're moving. If you're focusing on wonderful feelings, you just moved. These things are grabbing you and moving. This is your ego doing this to you. Absolute stillness. And then when you can hold that without single movement, you have arrived at that state of mind that you were before matter, before the Big Bang. And then you will experience oneness with the all, the entity of all at that moment. Guaranteed, for all the obvious reasons.
That is beautiful. Yeah. GM, it's always such a pleasure talking to you, my friend. I know you are a wealth of information, experiential information.
One thing, may I ask a favor, please, Alex, while we're still online?
Sure, of course.
I have an absolutely wonderful healing visualization. Most people would call it a meditation, but it is not. Mm-hmm. It's an exercise that heals everything. I've seen it heal everything from tropical ulcers to brain tumors. Would you like to do that?
Sure.
Honestly, if you've only got the time, we can do it. Yeah.
Oh, we have the time. Absolutely. I've got a couple.
You can edit this.
A couple of aches and pains I would love to get rid of.
Okay. First thing you need to do is get yourself several grams of hash. I'm joking. Here we go.
So you start off with crack cocaine. And
and then you work your way up. Yeah.
And then you work your way up to meth and heroin. No, go ahead.
And then you'll experience death.
Exactly. No. So you were saying?
This one I'm about to do is an all-over healing process. And like I said, it'll heal everything and anything. In saying that, go to a doctor and all of that stuff, okay? I'm not saying do this and you'll never have to see a doctor again. Here we go. Please close your eyes for me. Take a nice, easy, deep breath and relax everything. Wonderful. Now imagine a ball of Manuka honey sitting on top of your head.